name is Joseph Gonzalez, and I am the Artistic Director of Ars Dance Company, and I have been a dance and theatre practitioner for approximately 40 years of my life. My inspirations in dance have been many, but I would say that the people who have been most important and inspiring on a daily basis have been the teachers that I have been so fortunate to work with, to be a student of. Right from the early days of my student dancing from University Malaya as a member of Kasuma Dance Troupe, from Francis Teo Ballet Academy, from the Federal Academy of Ballet, to my teachers in London, Bush Davis, London Studio Centre, to the choreographers that I have worked with, from choreographers and teachers from Martha Graham Dance Company, from Merce Cunningham Dance Company. It's been incredible. Interestingly, I think the people that inspired me the most as I was getting more and more immersed in dance were the dancers that I worked with in Kuala Lumpur Dance Theatre and in the St. Moritz Dance Company. And this is because they were mainly ladies, girls, most of them younger than I was, and phenomenal dancers, much better than I was at that time, and perhaps that I ever became even. But they inspired me because they were dancers from Malaysia who had incredible technique, and they were able to do things that I was only able to dream of at that time. So they were very inspiring. But if I had to name just one person who inspired me with her tenacity, who inspired me because she was an educator, she was tough, she had iron fists in velvet gloves, as she loved to say. She also said, "Don't hold a dagger to my throat." And she was the late Mrs. Lily Lan, a teacher and lady that I was associated with almost all my dancing life. So I credit her with my discipline, I credit her with my passion, I credit her with the fact that no matter how I might be feeling, I have to wake up and do the job that I am maybe destined to do. So she would be my overall inspiring artist and person. There have been many defining moments in my career. I think I began my career for about 15 years. I was primarily a dancer. So there were many very exciting dance moments when I performed with the Kuala Lumpur Dance Theatre on stage in Malaysia. When we attended dance festivals, I think that was very defining because I think it really opened my eyes to what was available and what was happening around the world. I remember attending dance festivals in Korea in 1985. It's a long time ago when the dancers really blew my mind, and I said, there's a whole world of dance that's taking place outside of Kuala Lumpur and outside of Malaysia that I didn't know about. And I think that was very defining because it made me very hungry and want more. When I was in the UK, the dancers and defining moment was obviously the fact that I was on a West End stage and in the UK national tour of The King and I. Perhaps not such a culturally appropriate production, but it was one of the few that allowed space for Asian people to perform. And mind you, there were a lot of Asian dancers who were very good. So to be in the production, to have my name on the poster, Joseph Gonzalez, you know, in The King and I, as Simon Legree, so it was just unbelievable and unforgettable. Another defining moment would be as an educator, to be assistant artistic director to Mrs. Lily Lan in the early 90s, and then to become one of the founding members of Aswara in 1994. And that was another leap in my education and experience when I worked closely almost daily with people like Professor Anes, Suhaimi Magi, Lina Ang, Ida Reza, and people who had come back from overseas, who then really opened my mind to different ways of dancing, to different ways of choreography. And this was another very, very defining and exciting moment in my life. I think as artists, we all face challenges. There isn't a single artist that is challenge-free. And I think the challenges are what shape you, how you respond to those challenges. I think in my early days, the challenges were really more to do with my deficiency in my technique, as I saw it. Because I was a late starter, and so you're constantly playing catch-up. And it's very difficult. It's also a lot of pressure. And you always wake up feeling you're never good enough. And that was the challenge. And that was entirely up to me then to respond by hard work and discipline. That, to constantly want to go back into the studio and hone your craft and to just become a little bit better. And I think Baryshnikov said it best when he said, don't try to dance better than anyone else, just dance better than yourself. So I think that's really, really good advice, which I hung on to. And as an educator in Aswara, when I became the dean, there were different challenges posed. Challenge to make that transition and shift from being really a performer to then becoming a choreographer, absorbing choreographic styles, the challenge of discovering what I wanted to choreograph about, what do I want to make my dancers about, the challenge of being an educator, the challenge of being an administrator. These were all very, very difficult. I think I'm very grateful to a lot of people who helped me along the way and taught me the ropes of what was needed to be the dean of the National Arts Academy. It was a very big title, and it was challenging to think about how I would shape a curriculum of study that would reflect the institution. So my response to those challenges was to educate myself and to gain experience from other institutions in the world. So from my own initiative, using my own finances, I traveled to Australia to discover what the Western Academy of Performing Arts was offering, WAPA. I went to Taiwan very regularly. I went to Hong Kong. So these were places that I referred to, and they were my reference points about what and how I could shape a dance curriculum. I also went to LaSalle in Singapore, met with a very inspiring founder of the institution. So these were people who constantly fed me with information. So my response was to get more educated, more informed, so that I would make better decisions about the vision I had for the school as an educator. And now, as an artist who is running a dance company, my challenges are how to be sustainable, how to be relevant, how to constantly have funding for the projects that we want to do. How do I survive? How do I help the dancers survive and make a viable career in the arts? So the challenges never end, and the responses and the learning continues as well. I think dance really has evolved in leaps and bounds internationally. I'm not so sure whether it has evolved at the same pace in Malaysia. But internationally, contemporary dance, for example, has gone through tremendous changes. Perhaps from the time of Isadora Duncan to the time of Merce Cunningham, to the inclusion of dance film, to the inclusion of different kinds of practices for contemporary dance, taking it outdoors in the 1950s, postmodern dance. to dance in open spaces, to use non-dancers in dance productions. So these are all things that have evolved over time. Very different from traditional performances that happened in the village, or traditional performances of classical ballet, or classical Malay Indian dance, and so on. And contemporary dance is the area that I am personally most passionate about as an artist. So I'm very curious as to how today dance transcends the body, even using motion capture, using avatars. It's not something that I particularly, I'm totally not knowledgeable about that at all, but this is how it is evolving, while maintaining a space for the more conventional art forms and dance forms to continue to exist and continue to have an audience. So I think the Malaysian evolution perhaps has not been so robust. It takes time. I think naturally audiences prefer going to a performance where there is beautiful music, beautiful costume, dancers dancing in sync with the music, storytelling, narrative. Contemporary dance really breaks all that, you know. Contemporary dance is non-linear storytelling, very, very reliant on personal interpretations of the audience. Dancing with no music, dancing against the music, using text, for example. So these are very interesting ways that dance has changed. And I think as an educator, I need to be always aware of the changes and the evolution. I think it's very, very exciting. I think because I wear very many hats, it's quite difficult to actually say what the essence of my art form is. As a choreographer, I always work in contemporary, in the contemporary genre, which is of course very wide. Sometimes, not always, I use traditional dance vocabulary as a starting point. Sometimes working with traditional stories as a starting point. Sometimes using very contemporary stories in contemporary ideas as a starting point. So it's very diverse. So as an artist, if I am making work, there's always a certain kind of inspiration and drive for the kind of work that I want to make. I want to say something to the audience. Sometimes I just want the audience to have fun and appreciate the beauty of the human form in its glory of dancing. You know, it's quite an incredible thing. It's like watching an athlete. When you watch Usain Bolt run the 100 meters in 9.5 seconds, and you watch a dancer, it's very similar. It's very artistic. But the dancer really is also telling you a story, making you feel and making you respond and connect with that story. I think that's very beautiful. So that would be my essence, to want to make dance that connects with the audience. However, my other very, very big hat that I wear is as an educator. As an educator of dance, my philosophy is completely embodied in the context of multicultural Malaysia. Not in a political way that talks about the different percentages and quotas that we fit into. No, it's really about breaking down those walls, of breaking down those boundaries. So my philosophy is about making people understand that art transcends these bodies and training dancers who are able to dance across these borders and across these boundaries. And that really has embodied my life's work in the curriculum system that was instituted in Aswara, that I think many universities are following, in that training of the dancer in different genres. And I think it's very beautiful to watch non-Malays perform Malay dance, non-Chinese perform Chinese dance, and non-Indians perform Indian dance, non-East Malaysians performing East Malaysian dance. So that's very exciting to me. But I also want to get to a point where it doesn't become a topic of conversation anymore. It's just about beautiful dancing performed by Malaysians, when we can break down those barriers. So that, I guess, embodies my work as an educator. And my work also is embodied in my writing, although quite honestly, I do less of that. Research takes a long time. I take about a year, maybe two, to actually produce one academic paper. So it's very, very time consuming, but I feel I have to write about it. And you know, with the grace of God and the support of a lot of my family and friends, yes, I produced several books and written, possibly, not sure, Malaysia's only books on contemporary dance. So I think that's important work, and it's embodied in the sense that I feel the story needs to be told. Maybe only 500 people will go to a theatre, but there's potential for more people to read about the work that you do. I think discipline is really the essence. So when you're tired, when you're weary, when you feel like you don't really want to wake up, or you're waking up on the wrong side of the bed, but you really need to get into that studio or get into that office and do the work, that's when discipline really kicks in. So it's also something that helps your body remember. Your body remembers the movements, your body remembers pain, your body remembers joy, your body remembers the scars, your body remembers a lot of things. But you need discipline to be able to do the work every single day and tell yourself that it's important. And it's not dependent on how you feel, but discipline is what it takes to hone your craft. Whatever that craft may be, whether it's an educator, as a researcher, as a choreographer, or as a performer, every single thing needs discipline. Of course, certain things have tighter deadlines and things like that. And I think what I like, and I always try to impress upon my students or the dancers I work with, is that there must be a great sense of joy that you want to go into that studio, when you want to become a better dancer, you want to become a better choreographer, you want to go over and over your choreography, even the tiniest change, until the last possible moment when the curtain goes up. You have an idea of how the dance can look better. And that takes discipline. That discipline, married with your choreography and your creativity, is what possibly, potentially, will produce better work. So I think honing the discipline, it's not something that everybody has. Some people maybe are more naturally disciplined than others. Some people are more naturally creative than others. But I think in a long run, I think the person who works harder is the person who lasts longer. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So I think we need to bear that in mind. I don't think we invented this ritual, but definitely something that began to be practiced with all the dancers that I work with, is that an hour before the performance, we have a circle, a 7:30 circle, because most performances begin at 8:30, and we pray. We gather together and we absorb each other's energy, we give each other energy, and we get the feeling of being united as a team with a particular goal. And we pray in any kind, shape or form of what our beliefs are. We pray for a safe performance. We pray that we remember the lessons that were taught to us by our teachers. We pray for our families and parents that have brought us to this point. So that's our 7:30 prayer ritual. But as an artist, you have other rituals, and rituals include doing a warm-up class, so that happens earlier in the day of the performance. You go through a dry run. You do a run of the whole show, maybe not at 100% energy, but to remember exactly where you are and what you are doing in the show. So those are rituals that are common, I think, to all practitioners, and we follow that as well. I think firstly, I am most humbled to receive this recognition and award from Sugam Arts and Culture Foundation. It's certainly not something that I expected. I think if you ask any arts practitioner, they do it because they love it. They do it because they want it. We do it because we wake up in the morning thinking about this. But to be awarded and felicitated by your peers, by the wonderful people at Sugam, is a tremendous honor, and it's very humbling as well. In my 65th year of my life, or 64th, I feel there's still so much I want to do, and still so many things I would like to achieve. But it's something that you do every day. So the award also reminds me that the work is not done. And while I am so grateful for the recognition and the honor bestowed upon me by this wonderful organization, I feel it serves as an inspiration for me to continue to do good work for the arts in Malaysia. Arts in society, I feel, holds a mirror to the audience. I think it allows the audience to look and see what potential, what possibilities exist, sometimes to see what problems also exist, sometimes to reflect on our beliefs, sometimes to reflect on our traditions, our culture. So art plays such a tremendous role in our memories. It helps us to contextualize our lives as well. It helps us, I think, to be better human beings, because it puts us in touch with the very best of who we are or who we can be. And that sort of connection is so profound and so valuable. So I think art in Malaysia, especially now, helps to heal the wounds that divide. It helps to heal the fissures and the cracks that have appeared in this society post-1970. I think we need to heal. We need not to be so afraid of each other, not to be afraid that one person's views and religious beliefs or cultural practices can impinge on us and make us less of who we are. We can celebrate each other, and I want to work really hard, or at least doing my own part, to build those bridges. And I think that is the importance of my work in Malaysia. The advice that I would give is, no matter how frustrating it can be at times, and I know that it is, we have to wake up every day and keep doing it. I have just returned from a series of workshops that we conduct, Forging Traditions. Forging Traditions in Sarawak taught traditional Bharatanatyam, classical Bharatanatyam introduction and Chinese dance to 300 young people who have never even seen it before. So this really has given me so much inspiration, confidence, has boosted my own belief in the work that we do. And I think everyone involved in preservation of the arts also, I think very importantly, needs to understand that traditional art forms evolve. nothing stays stagnant in the way that it was 50 or 100 years ago. So today when my dancers do makyong, it really isn't the same as the makyong that was done in the time of Mubin Shepherd in the 1930s. You know, the costumes have changed, the materials made of the costumes are made of has changed. The dancers are more skillful, that's for sure. So in every art form, there has been evolution. But I think we need to be true to the art form as well. So how do you balance authenticity? How do you find that authenticity? So much of it is invented as well. So you have to go back to the root, you have to go back to the master teachers, you've got to take classes, you've got to remind yourself of the research and see how it was done and try to remain faithful to that, definitely. But I think also to allow for change. You know, the stage is so different today than it used to be. We have, much more sophisticated lighting. We have film and all these things that can help make a much more beautiful artistic experience for the audience. So I think sometimes traditional arts practitioners tend to be a little possessive, perhaps, and not that open to sort of changes that they see. In my own experience, I say makyong again, because I worked with Khatijah Awang when the Saniwati Negara, when she was working in Aswara. And whenever I wanted to do something that used makyong movements, I would always call her to the rehearsal and say, okay, Arwah Khatijah, what do you think of what I'm doing? Do you think it's okay? What is your feedback? And she was very open, and I was very open to listen to what she had to say. So I think experimentation and innovation is also necessary. I don't know if you remember, or the audience listening now remembers the work that was done by Zeppo Youngsters. It's a group of hip-hop dancers that went to Singapore and they won an international competition using hip-hop and combining it with Zapin and Silat. It was something that people had not seen before and something that the young people really enjoyed. And I think that's okay. They're not selling it as authentic Zapin or authentic Silat. And that's okay, I think. It's also how you present it to the audience, how you market the product as well. So I think that's important. So I think to young practitioners or practitioners involved in preservation, these are some of the critical issues that need to be thought about. Authenticity, innovation, change, evolution, and how do you draw the audiences to the work that you do. I think audience building is vital and absolutely necessary in a country like Malaysia, which doesn't really find the time to appreciate the arts. As an educator, I think automatically I've taken on the role of being a mentor to so many people. And it's a role that I have been thrown into. I didn't quite necessarily see, because my early career didn't have so many mentors. It was all about teachers. You have many teachers, you learn from everybody, and then you forge your own path, Nothing wrong with that. But I think perhaps in the system of education that we have in Malaysia, in educating artists in a country which is really developing, I think mentorship maybe plays a larger role. And certainly in traditional art forms, mentorship is essential. I think my idea of being a good mentor is to encourage the students, to encourage the dancers that I work with, while at the same time showing them where I think their weaknesses might lie. So we have a great deal of time spent on postmortems, on reflection, on feedback, feed forward. These things are very, very important. And the artist needs to take it in as well. I think it is important for me that the artists do not think that they have to do work that I will like, but really to develop an identity of their own. For me, being a good mentor is about giving the dancers, or the students, an opportunity for them to find their own voice. I may not necessarily like their voice. It may not be in the kind of ideas that I think is right for me, but if it's right for them, I am very, very supportive of what they do. And I think that is a very successful mentor, somebody that allows them the freedom. So I think a mentor teaches the artist to fly, allows the artist to fly. I think there's a very biblical saying that if you give a man a fish, he eats for one meal. But if you teach them how to fish, they will live for a lifetime. So it's that kind of a role that I see that the mentor plays in the life of an artist. And I myself have been very fortunate, not perhaps to have so many mentors, but to have really great teachers whom I love to this day. And I know that I wouldn't be the person that I am if I hadn't learned from all these wonderful teachers. I think finally what I'd like to say is about the work that I do is that I want to bring dance to Malaysians, and through dance bring Malaysians together.